She ran from her wedding and knocked on his door at midnight. Read a CEO's forbidden love story. The knock came at exactly 12:03 a.m. Sharp, desperate, and trembling with a kind of fear that doesn't wait for permission. He almost ignored it. In a world where power meant control and silence meant peace, midnight knocks were never good news. But something about this one felt different, urgent, broken, alive. If you believe that even the most shattered hearts deserve a second chance, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us why humanity still matters. He opened the door, and everything in his carefully controlled life fell apart. She stood there in a white wedding dress, soaked from the night rain, her mascara blurred into shadows under her eyes, her breath uneven like she had been running not just for minutes, but for years. Her hands trembled as if they carried invisible chains, and her gaze held something that struck deeper than fear. It was a silent scream for help. He didn't ask questions, not immediately, because something in him, something long buried under years of discipline, ambition, and emotional distance, recognized that look. It was the same look he had seen in the mirror many nights ago, before he became the man the world now respected. He stepped aside, and she walked in. The door closed behind them, sealing a moment that neither of them understood yet, but one that would change everything. He was a man who built empires out of silence, a CEO known for his cold decisions, his calculated risks, and his complete detachment from anything that resembled vulnerability. His days were filled with numbers, contracts, and negotiations that left no room for emotion. And his nights were quieter than anyone could imagine. Loneliness had become his routine. But that night, as he watched the girl standing in the center of his living room, dripping rain onto marble floors, holding her breath like the world was chasing her, he felt something unfamiliar stir inside him, concern, confusion, and something dangerously close to care. She didn't speak at first. She simply looked around, as if trying to convince herself she was safe. Her fingers clutched the fabric of her dress, wrinkling the symbol of a life she had just abandoned. And when she finally exhaled, it came out like a fragile confession. She had run away from her wedding, not because she didn't believe in love, but because she had realized too late that she was about to lose herself forever. Her life had been planned for her, decided, arranged, approved. The man she was supposed to marry wasn't cruel, not in the obvious ways, but he was a cage disguised as comfort. A future where her voice would slowly disappear, her dreams would shrink, and her identity would fade into someone else's expectations. And tonight, just minutes before she was supposed to become someone's wife, she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the girl staring back. So she ran. She didn't know where she was going. Her feet carried her through empty streets, her heart pounding louder than the silence around her. And somehow, without logic or reason, she ended up at his door, a man she barely knew. Man with a reputation colder than the night outside, but also the only man who had ever looked at her like she wasn't invisible. Days turned into nights, and nights turned into something neither of them could define. He gave her space at first, a room, dry clothes, warm food, no questions she wasn't ready to answer. But slowly, piece by piece, her story unfolded, not through dramatic confessions, but through quiet moments, the way she hesitated before laughing, the way she flinched at sudden sounds, the way she stared out the window like she was still deciding whether she deserved to stay. And for the first time in years, he listened, not as a CEO, not as a man of power, but as someone who understood what it meant to feel trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside. His struggle had always been different, but just as suffocating. He had built his success from pain, from loss, from a past that taught him emotions were weaknesses, attachments were risks, and love was a luxury he could never afford again. So he buried it all, under work, under control, under silence. But she had a way of undoing that silence without even trying. She didn't challenge him. She didn't demand anything. She simply existed in his space with a kind of broken honesty that made it impossible for him to remain untouched. And slowly, his life began to change. He started coming home earlier. He started noticing things he had ignored for years, the warmth of a shared meal, the sound of laughter in empty rooms, the strange comfort of someone else's presence. And she began to heal, not completely, not instantly, but enough to smile without forcing it, enough to breathe without feeling like she was running. But nothing this fragile stays hidden forever. The world outside didn't forget. Her family began searching. Questions turned into pressure. Pressure turned into threats. And his world, the corporate empire he had spent years protecting, started to crack under rumors and scrutiny. A CEO hiding a runaway bride, a scandal waiting to explode. He knew what it could cost him. Everything, his reputation, his company, the life he had built with relentless discipline. And for the first time in years, he faced a decision that couldn't be solved with logic. It demanded something he had avoided his entire life: heart. The night the truth finally caught up with them, the silence between them